Tulsi. Hi, Dan.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Aloha.
Aloha. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. The NOWMAN Show based out of Pasadena. You maybe want to carry a boogie one out.
That's right.
40 to 45% of the population now is actually struggling with basic necessities. This is serious crisis. This is an emergency.
Yes.
Which we've been ignoring for 10 years. Many of us have been affected by that crash in 2008. And nothing is done. Not a thing. How do we realistically get this group of people here together, as well as millions of people, to stand together and demand justice? Now,
Two things. It's getting rid of the I agree with you. It's getting rid of the influence of big money and Wall Street money in Washington that has stopped real reform from taking place to break up the big banks and hold them responsible for gambling with our futures. That still hasn't happened. It is only we the people that can demand and hold leaders accountable in order to make this kind of change.
And we have to love each other and radically show that to each other.
Exactly.
And you do that for us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you all so much for gathering here today and giving me this warm, aloha-filled welcome. Trying to figure out this mic situation here. This is the one I'm using, right? All right. It's a beautiful day. My heart is full. Even with all of the challenges, the bad news, the vitriol that we see on Twitter and amongst the airwaves, my heart is full and I am full of hope. Because of you. Because of you. It's heartbreaking to see how our country has become so divided. How we, the people, have become so torn apart. How the vision that the founders of this country had for us, where we, the people, have the power and the ability to elect a government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people, has been so lost. How many of you here feel like this vision has been brought to fruit today? Instead, what we are seeing is this dark shadow caused by a corruption of spirit that is ruling our land, where we have self-serving politicians, people in positions of power, greedy corporations and special interests, who are all interested in acting for themselves, leaving the rest of us behind. We see the corruptive influence of this big special interest money in politics every day, as laws are written and policies are passed that don't serve the interests of the people, because the voices of the people are not being heard, they're not being represented. So we have instead a government today that is largely of, by, and for the powerful, leaving the rest of us behind. Instead today we have a government that is largely of, by, and for big money special interests, leaving the rest of us behind. What will it take to overcome these tough odds? What will it take to overcome these sometimes seemingly insurmountable challenges? We, the people, standing together, rising up and making sure that our voices are heard, standing united in this spirit of aloha, this spirit of care and love for each other, for our country, and for our future. When we stand united, we will overcome. We will overcome. There is no challenge too great, no mountain too high, no sea too turbulent, because there is nothing more powerful than when we stand together motivated by this spirit of aloha. There's a reason why I talk about aloha everywhere I go. Yes, I'm from Hawaii, very proudly, obviously. But it's because there is such a powerful meaning behind this word. There's a reason why we use it to greet each other, not just to say hello and goodbye, but the real meaning of aloha is I love you. I care about you. It's a recognition of our connectedness as brothers and sisters, that we are all children of God, regardless of our race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, where we come from, how much money we have in our pockets, what kind of education we have. Aloha inspires us to recognize our unity, to care for each other, and then to take action because of that care. What do we do when we care for someone? We take care of them. We protect them. That is the power that lies within our hands to bring about the great change that we need to see in this country right now. It is that power of the people that is so often underestimated and minimized by the self-serving politicians and greedy corporations in Washington. They think that they hold the power in their hands to determine our future. That's right. We need to take it back. It is when we stand together, motivated by this spirit of aloha and care for one another, that we can bring about real change to fix this broken and corrupt healthcare system. It allows corporations to make money off the backs of sick people in this country. It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable that we all spend far more on healthcare in this country than any other country in the world, lest we see worse outcomes. We see sick people in this country who still can't get the care that they need. That's why I support Medicare for all, and that's how I know. That's how I know that when we the people stand up saying, I will not allow a single one of my brothers and sisters to fall sick and not get the care they need. That is how we bring about this change. When we stand united in this spirit of aloha and care for one another, we can bring about real criminal justice reform. End private prisons. End this failed war on drugs. End prohibition on marijuana. Make sure that we are truly caring for one another. It is when we stand united, caring for one another, and for our future, that we can address the homeless crisis that is inflicted on so many of our friends and neighbors and families. People all across this country, far too many people across this country, in my home state of Hawaii, here in California, in big cities and small communities, in urban communities and rural communities, are suffering and living without a roof over their heads. We recently had a hearing in the Financial Services Committee in Congress where a woman came and told her story. A story that I know represents the story of so many whose voices are not being heard. How she was living the middle class life. She had a home and a great job and a family, and everything was going well. She could not imagine that being homeless would be something she would ever have to think about. She got very sick. Her savings were depleted. She went through a divorce and found herself on the streets. She didn't know where to go. She didn't know if there was a shelter in her community. And she shared that what she found when she got to the shelter, there were lawyers, entrepreneurs, teachers, people who we may not think are the ones who are dealing with this, suffering because of this crisis. This is not someone else's problem. We must stand together to address this crisis, to deal with the high cost of living, to deal with the fact that far too many people in this country are not earning a living wage, and that we have a huge affordable housing shortage in this country. We have to take action. When we stand united, we can make bold investments in green, sustainable infrastructure to rebuild this country, to make it so that there is no person, whether it be in Flint, Michigan, or in any community in this country, that no one is being poisoned by the water that is coming out of the water. When we stand united, caring for one another and for our planet, we can take bold action to address this climate crisis that we are facing. To end these terrible fossil fuel subsidies, end our addiction on fossil fuels, and invest in green, renewable energy for today and generations to come. We will build partnerships with other countries, recognizing that this is not only a crisis that faces us and our future, this is a crisis that faces our entire planet. And the only way to address that is when we work with leaders of other countries, when we work with people in other countries who have this shared interest, when we build those relationships that are based on cooperation and shared interests, rather than a foreign policy that we are seeing now that is based on conflict. This is the kind of change that we can and we will bring about. This is the kind of change that allows us to overcome those obstacles that too often are set before us. And there is an issue that is central to our ability to being able to carry out this vision. Unfortunately, it is one that is not talked about often enough. And that issue is the cost of war.
That's right.
I'm a soldier. I'm a major in the Army National Guard. I've been serving now for almost 15 years and was deployed twice to the Middle East. First time in 2005 in Iraq, in a medical unit, where every day I was confronted with this high cost of war. Saw who pays the price. The high human cost of war. I want to take just a moment and ask our veterans and service members who are in the room here to please rise if you are able and allow us to recognize you for your service. Thank you. Fight hardest for peace. Those of us who know the cost of war will never forget our friends. Those who paid the ultimate price and never made that long trip home. We'll never forget those ceremonies that we held downrange to honor their lives. We'll never forget as we stood there and saluted their empty boots, their rifle and their empty helmet, remembering the time that we shared. Our veterans, our service members and their families pay a huge price. The people in the countries where we wage these wasteful regime change wars pay a huge price.
That's right.
These wasteful regime change wars undermine our national security. They strengthen terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. The thing is that you may not realize this yourself, but every single one of us in this country pays the price for these wars. Every single one of us. price for these wars and the trillions of dollars that are taken out of our pockets, that go towards paying for wasteful regime change wars, towards this new Cold War with heightening tensions between the United States and nuclear-armed countries like Russia and China, and the nuclear arms race that's been brought about with things like the decision President Trump made recently to withdraw from the historic INF Treaty that Reagan negotiated with Gorbachev almost 30 years ago, that drastically reduced the numbers of nuclear weapons in the world, drastically reduced the risk of nuclear catastrophe, yet here we find ourselves in a place today where we are at a greater risk of nuclear catastrophe now, today, than ever before in history. How can this be? Our leaders have failed us. Back in Hawaii, a little over a year ago, there was a major wake-up call about how real this threat is. When early, on a Saturday morning, not one unlike today, it's a beautiful day, when all of a sudden there was a text alert that was sent out from Hawaii's civil defense to cell phones all across the state that read, "Missile incoming. Seek shelter immediately. This is not a drill." Now we're here on a Saturday. It's still morning in Hawaii. Just imagine right now how you would feel. What would run through your mind if right now you got that message on your phone? Knowing you have just minutes to live. What do you do? Where do you go? Where are your loved ones? Where can you find safety? Where can you find shelter? It's terrifying. This is what was going through all of our minds when this happened in Hawaii just over a year ago. Families start piling all their kids in the car and driving towards the mountains to see if there was a cave that might give them shelter. Because there are no nuclear bunkers in Hawaii. We don't even have basements in Hawaii. We had a father who lowered his little 7-year-old girl down a manhole, thinking that might be the only place she would be safe. This is real. That alert turned out to be a false alarm, but we reacted in the way that we did because this threat is real. And it is not just real for the people of Hawaii. It is real for every single one of us in this country. I don't tell you this to cast a dark cloud over you. I tell you this because we have to recognize how our leaders have failed us and to know that it doesn't have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. The choice is ours. The choice is ours to bring about the kind of change we need to see, to bring about the sea change in our foreign policy, to get our priorities straight. I'm running for president because I don't want a single one of you or your loved ones or your family or friends to have to go through what we went through in Hawaii. I don't want a single one of you to have to live with this threat any longer ahead. I'm running for president and asking you for the opportunity to serve you as your commander-in-chief, to bring about an end to these wasteful regime change wars, to work to end this new Cold War, end this nuclear arms race that is making us less safe, because our future is at stake. By doing this, by bringing these trillions of dollars that are going towards these wars and these weapons, we will be able to invest this peace dividend into serving the needs of the people in our communities in this country. To be able to make the kind of change that we know we need to see. Now we know the forces who stand against us are great. We know that people who are benefiting from the status quo the foreign policy establishment, the military-industrial complex, they don't want to see this change. But we know that when we stand united, we will overcome. We will overcome. We will bend the arc of history away from war and towards peace. We will change the course of our future to one where we have a government that is truly of, by, and for the people. We will change the course of history to one that fulfills these uniquely American ideals of service above self, putting people ahead of profits, people ahead of politics, putting the well-being of our people and our planet at the forefront of the decisions that we make in this country. Real positive change. This is the change I seek to bring to the White House, to bring these values that are at the heart of every soldier, of every service member, the values of service above self, back to the White House. The principles of honor and integrity and respect, back to the presidency. So that our White House becomes that beacon of light and hope and opportunity and justice and respect and equality for every single person in this country. Thank you so much.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Is it okay, Congresswoman Gabbard, to call you Tulsi?
I prefer it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know.
He's taking the hat and glasses off now. It's getting serious.
It's a real honor.
Thank you.
Hawaii resident Michael Brandon Parker says he has known you since you were a child and he introduced you to the RSS, a violent paramilitary in India. Vijay Palat of Texas is a leader in RSS-affiliated groups in the USA, and he confirms that he met you through Michael Brandon Parker. In your first 2 terms in office, you also met the RSS spokesperson at least 3 times, and you spoke at many RSS events, including 2 in India. When did your collaboration with the RSS begin, and how much money have they given you?
I'm a soldier, and I took an oath, one oath, in my life. That was an oath to serve and protect this country, to put my life on the line for the people of this country. Thank you very much. We stand for Aloha. We stand for diversity. We stand for peace and bringing people together around these shared ideals of freedom and opportunity for all people. Thank you everybody for standing with me in this movement for peace. One of us is an attack against all of us.
We have time for 2 more questions. Let's get a young lady right here in front. Young lady, go ahead.
back, the question was about the Iran nuclear deal. Now, as a member of Congress, the Foreign Affairs Committee, in the lead up towards that deal, coming before Congress for a vote, I was pushing hard to make sure that deal was a strong one. In the interest of our country, we wanted to make sure that that deal was the best deal possible. So I asked a lot of tough questions. I raised a lot of tough concerns. When that deal was finalized and brought before the United States Congress, I supported it and voted for it, understanding that even though there were still some concerns that I had, the alternative to this deal was war, and that was not something I was willing to accept. I have been outspoken in the years since in denouncing President Trump's actions to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal, understanding how this action undermines our national security and our ability to make similar deals with countries like North Korea. Because if we are not willing to abide by the agreements that we have, why should other countries in the world who are seeking to denuclearize